Earth strikes back. The Galaxy Council is left speechless. Part 1. Admiral Tessa Blackwood stood rigid in the vast circular chamber of the Galactic Council, her naval uniform a stark blue against the sea of alien delegates. The massive amphitheater rose hundreds of feet above her, filled with representatives from over 3,000 spacefaring civilizations. Holographic displays projected her image to every corner of the chamber. Species 3742, designation Human of Sol System, announced the Grand Arbiter, a towering being with crystalline features that caught the light in hypnotic patterns. You stand before this council to answer for your species' violation of Galactic Decree 17.3, unauthorized weapons development and prohibited technological advancement. Tessa's jaw tightened. Behind her stood 5 other humans, Earth's delegation chosen for their expertise. Dr. Marcus Rivera, quantum physicist with nervous eyes but brilliant mind. Ambassador Nadia Okafor, diplomat with decades of experience in Earth's most tense negotiations. Commander Raj Patel, military strategist with a reputation for unconventional thinking. Dr. Lena Fujimoto, xenobiologist who had dedicated her life to theorizing about alien life. And Vincent Kozlov, Earth Defense Force intelligence officer who remained eerily calm even now. The Grand Arbiter's voice echoed across the chamber. For 3 centuries, we have observed your species from afar. We placed quarantine beacons at the edge of your system as is standard protocol for developing civilizations. Yet somehow your kind detected our presence, disabled our monitoring systems, and accelerated beyond permitted technological thresholds. A murmur rippled through the alien delegates. On the main display, images appeared of Earth's recent achievements. Faster-than-light ships that shouldn't have been possible for at least another century of development. Gravitational manipulation technology that defied the Council's understanding of human capability, and quantum defense systems that even some Council races had yet to master. What say you to these charges? The Arbiter demanded. Tessa stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. With respect, Arbiter, Earth was never formally invited into this Council. We received no communication, no diplomatic overtures. The only alien presence we detected were automated weapons platforms and surveillance. Devices at the edge of our system, what any sovereign species would consider a hostile act. The chamber erupted in outrage. Delegates of all shapes and sizes, some gaseous, others insectoid, many humanoid, but with stark differences, shouted and gestured wildly. The Arbiter slammed a crystalline appendage down, creating a thunderous boom that instantly silenced the room. Silence. The human speaks with typical primitive arrogance. These are standard quarantine protocols for species that have not achieved sufficient evolutionary stability. The fact that you detected our observation posts only proves our point. You advanced too quickly, in dangerous directions. A delegate rose from the 3rd tier, Admiral Vox of the Taurian hegemony, a militaristic species known for their aggressive expansion. His scaled body and facial ridges tensed as he spoke. I move that we implement containment protocol. Their world should be subjected to immediate technological regression and memory alteration. The humans present too great a risk to galactic stability. Several delegates voiced agreement. Tessa's hand moved subtly to her wrist device. The delegation exchanged glances. They had prepared for this scenario, but had hoped it wouldn't come to this so quickly. Before this council votes, Tessa announced, her voice suddenly amplified through the chamber. You should know that our planet has prepared for this possibility. She activated her device. The chamber's lights flickered momentarily. When they stabilized, a new hologram appeared above the chamber floor. A real-time strategic display of the entire galactic sector. Thousands of tiny lights began blinking into existence around every major council world. The display zoomed in to show miniature devices almost invisible to the naked eye, hovering near crucial infrastructure, space stations, and defense systems across council space. What is the meaning of this? Demanded the Arbiter, crystalline form shifting colors in what the humans recognized as alarm. Dr. Rivera stepped forward, pushing his glasses up nervously, but speaking with authority. While you were watching us, we were learning about you. For 50 years, we've been deploying autonomous quantum-entangled probes throughout council space. They're completely undetectable by your scanning technology because they operate on principles you haven't discovered yet. Commander Patel continued with military precision. Each probe carries what we call a localized space-time inhibitor. Not a weapon per se, but if activated, they would temporarily disable FTL capability within their operational radius. Every major council world, space station, and fleet is now within range of at least one such device. The implications hit the council like a shockwave. Without faster-than-light travel, the vast Galactic Council would fragment into isolated systems overnight. Trade would collapse. Planets dependent on imports would face resource crises. The entire power structure of the galaxy would unravel in weeks. This is unprecedented, roared Admiral Vox, his scaled face flushing dark purple. No species has ever dared such audacity. This proves they must be contained immediately. We didn't come looking for conflict, Tessa replied calmly. But we won't submit to judgment from those who never bothered to introduce themselves before placing us under surveillance. We're simply ensuring this conversation happens as equals. The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form seemed to dim slightly. You would risk interstellar war on your first appearance before this council? Ambassador Okafor stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in every measured movement. On the contrary, we come with a proposal. We believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's nature and potential. We request the right to demonstrate why Earth deserves recognition as a full council member, not isolation or containment. A new delegate rose, this one with flowing tentacle-like appendages and bioluminescent patterns across its body. I am Representative Luminax of the Aquarian Collective. I wish to know how a supposedly primitive species managed to deploy thousands of advanced devices throughout council space without detection. Our security protocols are considered impenetrable, Dr. Fujimoto answered. That's precisely what we wish to discuss. Humanity has developed along different lines than your models predicted. We have strengths you haven't accounted for. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications became clear. Humanity had outmaneuvered the council before. Negotiations had even begun. The arbiter's voice was considerably less confident as it spoke. This council will recess for deliberation. The human delegation will be escorted to secure quarters until we reconvene. As the delegates filed out in shocked conversation, Vincent whispered to Tessa, Phase 1 complete. They have no idea what's coming next. The delegation was led through massive crystalline corridors by silent, hovering security drones. The council station was a marvel of engineering, a structure larger than Earth's moon, housing representatives from thousands of worlds. Through transparent sections of the corridor, they could see the vast expanse of space and the nearby galactic arm, stretching out in breathtaking beauty in their assigned quarters, luxurious by human standards but clearly designed for various alien physiologies. The delegation gathered in a tight circle. They'll try to locate and neutralize our probes, Commander Patel said, running scenarios on a portable tactical display. They won't succeed, Dr. Rivera replied. The quantum entanglement makes them essentially invisible, unless you know exactly what to look for. Ambassador Okafor paced the room. We need to be careful. The Council clearly views us as a threat now. Some factions will push harder for containment. That's what we expected, Tessa said. But we also saw potential allies. The Aquarian representative seemed more curious than hostile. Dr. Fujimoto nodded. Several species showed similar reactions. We need to exploit those divisions. Vincent activated a small device that created a localized sound dampening field. Let's not forget our primary mission. The probes are just leverage. What we really need is access to the Council's restricted archives. Tessa's expression hardened. Exactly. Somewhere in their records is the truth about why Earth was really quarantined. The surveillance went beyond standard protocol. Someone wanted us isolated for a specific reason. And we're going to find out why, Ambassador Okafor said firmly. A soft chime interrupted them. The room's communication system activated, projecting the image of a council aide, a tall, thin being with forearms and iridescent skin. The Council requests your presence in 3 standard hours. You are permitted to explore public areas of the station until then, escorted by security personnel. Tessa exchanged glances with her team. This was unexpected and potentially useful. We accept, she replied. We look forward to learning more about the Council and its members. As the communication ended, Vincent smiled grimly. They're trying to observe us in a controlled environment. Then let's give them something to observe, Tessa replied. Nadia, Lena, see what you can learn in the public archives about council politics. Raj, Marcus, Engineering and Defense Systems. Vincent, you're with me. We're going to have some interesting conversations with whoever's watching us. The Delega. Earth Strikes Back. The Galaxy Council is left. Speechless Part 2. The vast observation deck of the Galactic Council Station teemed with alien diplomats and officials, all stealing glances at the human delegation. Admiral Tessa Blackwood stood at the edge of the transparent floor, gazing out at the spectacular vista of swirling nebulae and distant stars. Far below, the massive engines that kept the station in a stable orbit pulsed with energy. "They're all watching us," Vincent Kozlov murmured, pretending to admire the view while conducting a subtle scan with his wrist device. "Good," Tessa replied quietly. "Let them watch. Phase 2 begins now." Across the deck, a tall, willowy alien with translucent skin approached. Its movements were fluid, almost hypnotic. 2 security drones hovered nearby, their weapon systems clearly visible. "I am Delegate Zoran of the Illuvian Concord," the being announced, its voice a melodious hum that seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly in their minds. "Your appearance before the council was unexpected." Tessa turned and offered a respectful nod. "Unexpected seems to be humanity's specialty, Delegate Zoran." The alien skin rippled with changing colors, their equivalent of facial expressions. "Indeed. 3 centuries of observation, and yet your species continues to defy our predictive models. Most fascinating." Vincent shifted slightly, positioning himself to block the security drone's direct line of sight to Tessa. "Perhaps your models need updating. Perhaps." Zoran's colors shifted to deeper blues. "Many on the council fear what they do not understand, and humans are difficult to understand. You advance rapidly yet unevenly. You create beauty and destruction in equal measure. You are simultaneously primitive and sophisticated." Tessa seized the opening. "And yet the council made judgments about us without ever speaking to us directly. Why is that, Delegate? Standard protocol, as the Arbiter claimed? Or something else?" The alien's colors suddenly muted, turning almost gray. "You should be cautious with such questions, Admiral Blackwood. Not all ears in this station are officially sanctioned." Before Tessa could press further, Zoran drifted away, merging with a group of delegates across the deck. Vincent's device gave a subtle vibration against his wrist. "Scan complete," he whispered. 17 different species are actively monitoring us right now. And there's something else. Encrypted communications far above the standard council protocols. Tessa nodded slightly. "Someone's very interested in us. Let's find out who." Across the station, Dr. Marcus Rivera and Commander Raj Patel walked through the engineering section, escorted by a hulking reptilian security officer. The massive fusion reactors that powered the station hummed with energy so intense they could feel it through the reinforced floors. "Fascinating design," Marcus commented, genuinely impressed. "The containment field geometry is unlike anything we've theorized." The security officer grunted. "Council technology is beyond human comprehension." Raj smiled pleasantly. "And yet here we are, having comprehended enough to detect your quarantine beacons and deploy our own countermeasures throughout council space." The reptilian scales flared in irritation. "A temporary advantage. The council has existed for 50,000 years. Your species was still throwing spears at each other a mere few millennia ago." Marcus adjusted his glasses, using the motion to activate a scanner hidden in the frame. "Timescales are relative, officer. Sometimes evolution happens gradually, sometimes in sudden leaps." As they continued their tour, Marcus's glasses captured detailed schematics of the station's power systems. Meanwhile, in the central archives, Ambassador Nadia Okafor and Dr. Lena Fujimoto were making discoveries of their own. The public archives were housed in a crystalline dome, with data pedestals arranged in concentric circles. Each pedestal accessed different aspects of council history and member species information. Their guide, a small hovering drone, provided basic instructions on the interface. "The interface responds to thought patterns," the drone explained. "Simply focus on your query." Nadia placed her hand on a pedestal and concentrated. The crystal glowed, projecting a holographic display of council history. She scrolled through significant events, stopping occasionally to examine details about first contact protocols with various species. Lena, meanwhile, focused on xenobiological classifications. As the information flowed, she noticed something odd. "Nadia," she whispered, Look at the classification of Earth. We're listed as Category 7 Delta. Nadia frowned. What does that mean? According to this, Lena continued, scrolling through the data, Category 7 species are those with anomalous development patterns, but Delta subcategory, that's reserved for species considered potentially disruptive to galactic equilibrium. Nadia's diplomatic experience translated this immediately. We were quarantined because they're afraid of us. Not just afraid, Lena replied, her voice dropping lower. According to these records, Earth was placed under special observation 3,000 years ago, long before we developed modern technology. That's impossible, Nadia breathed. Why would they? She was interrupted by a sudden change in the archive's lighting. The crystal pedestals dimmed, then brightened again. Their drone escort froze momentarily, then resumed its hovering. Apologies for the interruption, it announced. A routine power fluctuation. Please continue your research. But Nadia and Lena exchanged knowing glances. The information they'd accessed had triggered something. Hours later, the human delegation reconvened in their quarters, sharing their findings. The station's power systems are remarkable, Marcus reported, but I found vulnerabilities. Their quantum shielding has harmonic resonance points that could be exploited. The archives revealed inconsistencies in Earth's classification, Nadia added. We triggered some kind of alert when we accessed certain files. Tessa nodded. Vincent and I confirmed we're being monitored by multiple factions, not just official council security. So what's our next move? Raj asked, already thinking tactically. Vincent activated their security field. We need access to the restricted archives. That's where we'll find why Earth was really placed under quarantine. And how do we get that access? Lena asked. We can't exactly break into the most secure facility in the galaxy. A soft tapping sound from the ceiling interrupted them. They looked up to see a panel sliding aside. A small shadowy figure dropped silently into their midst. The humans reached for weapons but froze when the figure spoke. Perhaps I can be of assistance. The creature stood barely 4 feet tall, with gray skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its eyes were large, completely black, and its 6-fingered hands moved with incredible precision. I am Crix of the Verati, it said. My people are not members of the council. In fact, officially, we do not exist. Tessa's hand remained near her concealed weapon. And why would you help us, Crix of the non-existent Verati? The small alien's expression was unreadable. Because the council has been lying about Earth for millennia, and my people have been watching. We believe humanity deserves to know the truth. And what truth is that? Vincent asked skeptically. Crix's black eyes seemed to grow even darker. That humans are not native to Earth. You were placed there by a civilization that preceded the council, and some on the council fear what will happen when you remember your origins. Stunned silence filled the room. Tessa recovered first. You're claiming humans are transplants. From where? That information is in the restricted archives, Crix replied. Archives I can help you access before your second council appearance. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. This is absurd. Human evolutionary history is well documented. Is it? Crix asked. Or have you merely constructed a plausible narrative based on incomplete evidence? Have you never wondered why humans advance so rapidly compared to other species? Why your technological development accelerated exponentially, while others progressed linearly? Lena, the xenobiologist, frowned. There are theories that could explain. Theories designed to obscure the truth, Crix interrupted. The Council has influenced human development through subtle intervention for centuries. The quarantine was never about protection, it was about containment. Tessa crossed her arms. Even if we believed you, why would you help us? My people were also relocated long ago. We've been watching the Council for millennia, waiting for the right moment to challenge their authority. Crix gestured toward the ceiling. Time is short. Council security sweeps will detect my presence soon. Will you accept my help? The humans exchanged glances, silently debating. Finally, Tessa nodded. If you can get us into those archives, we'll listen to what you have to say. Excellent. Crix produced a small device and placed it on the floor. It projected a holographic map of the station's secure levels. The archives are here beneath the council chamber. Security is multi-layered, biometric, psionic, and quantum. But there's a maintenance access that's vulnerable during the station's sleep cycle, which begins in 4 hours, Vincent noted. Checking his device. Precisely. Crix pointed to specific locations on the map. Your devices have already mapped much of the station's systems. With a coordinated approach, we can create a diversion here, while a small team enters through this access point. Commander Patel studied the map with professional interest. This could work, but it's risky. If we're caught, we lose. Earth strikes back. The Galaxy Council is left, speechless. Part 3. The station's sleep cycle brought a dimming of lights across public areas and a reduction in the ambient hum of machinery. Admiral Tessa Blackwood moved with practiced stealth through a maintenance corridor, Vincent Kozlov and Crix close behind her. Their conversation with Delegate Zoran had yielded unexpected results. "I still don't trust him," Vincent whispered, referring to Zoran. "His offer of help could be a trap." "Possibly," Tessa acknowledged, but his fear seemed genuine. Whatever's in those archives has the Illuvian Concord worried. Crix moved with a ghostly silence that even trained military operatives like Tessa and Vincent couldn't match. The Illuvians have always been the conscience of the Council, when they have the courage to speak. But courage is rare in a body that has maintained power for 50 millennia. They reached a junction where the maintenance passage intersected with a heavily secured door. Crix produced a device that attached to the door's control panel. "We have 7 minutes before security registers the intrusion," the small alien explained. "After that, your diversion needs to be active." Back in the human quarters, Commander Raj Patel monitored his tactical display. "Marcus status?" Dr. Rivera's voice came through their secure channel. "In position. The modifications to the station's power relay are complete. On your command, we can trigger a harmonic imbalance in the lower sectors." "Ambassador?" Nadia Okafor responded from the public observation deck. "Ready. Dr. Fujimoto and I have attracted sufficient attention. Several council delegates are engaged in conversation. Remember, this is a diplomatic incident, not a military operation," Raj cautioned. "Our goal is to create confusion, not conflict." "Understood," came the chorus of responses. At the access point, Crix's device completed its work. The secured door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a crystalline corridor that sloped downward into the heart of the station. "The restricted archives," Crix whispered. "No unauthorized being has accessed this section in over 3,000 years. "Until now," Vincent added grimly. They descended into the corridor, which grew increasingly luminous as they proceeded. The walls themselves seemed alive with data, flowing patterns of light that contained the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations. "The Council claims to preserve all knowledge," Crix explained. "But they control what is accessible and to whom. Some truths are deemed too dangerous for general consumption." "Like the truth about Earth?" Tessa asked. Crix's large black eyes reflected the dancing lights. "Among others." They reached a circular chamber where the flowing data streams converged into a pulsing central column. Around the column were workstations designed for various alien physiologies. "We need to access the historical database," Crix said, approaching one of the stations. "Specifically records from approximately 12,000 years ago, Earth Standard Time." Vincent checked his device. 3 minutes until security detection is probable. Crix's 6-fingered hands moved with remarkable speed across the interface. "I'm bypassing the initial authentication. Now accessing the temporal index. Searching for Earth references." The data column pulsed faster, colors shifting through spectra visible and invisible to human eyes. "There," Crix said suddenly. "Project seeding." The chamber filled with a holographic display, a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with hundreds of worlds highlighted. Earth was among them, but so were dozens of other planets scattered throughout various star systems. "What is this?" Tessa asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. "The Exodus record," Crix replied. "When the precursor civilization faced extinction, they transplanted compatible species to suitable worlds throughout the galaxy. Humans were one such species." Vincent stared at the display in disbelief. "That's impossible. Human evolutionary history was guided," Crix interrupted. "The precursors didn't simply relocate your ancestors. They seeded your world with genetic markers that would ensure evolution along certain paths." The display zoomed in on Earth, showing a timeline of human development with key genetic and cultural milestones highlighted. "The Council discovered this program thousands of years ago," Crix continued. They feared what it meant, that the precursors had created potential successors, species designed to eventually reclaim their legacy. Tessa's tactical mind immediately grasped the implications. So they quarantined Earth to prevent us from developing as the precursors intended. Precisely. The Council built its power on controlling the technology and knowledge left by the precursors. The emergence of a species designed to inherit that legacy threatens their dominance. Vincent's device suddenly vibrated. Security alert. The diversion needs to start now. Tessa activated her comm. Commander Patel, execute. Across the station, Marcus Rivera activated his modified device. The station's power grid experienced a sudden harmonic disruption. Lights flickered throughout the lower sectors. Alarm systems activated, reporting system failures that didn't actually exist. On the observation deck, Ambassador Okafor skillfully used the moment to create diplomatic confusion. This disruption is concerning, she announced loudly to the gathered delegates. Could it be related to the earlier power fluctuation in the archives? The suggestion spread quickly among the nervous delegates. Security forces began moving toward the lower sectors, away from the restricted archives. Back in the archive chamber, Crix worked frantically to download critical data. There's more you need to see. The precursors left technology caches on each seeded world, designed to activate when the species reached a certain developmental stage. The quantum leap in human technology over the past century, Tessa realized, it wasn't just natural development. No. Your scientists discovered one such cache in the Antarctic ice sheet 50 years ago. That discovery accelerated your development beyond the Council's predictions. The display showed the location of the Antarctic discovery, along with similar sites around Earth that remained dormant. There are more caches? Vincent asked. Many more, Crix confirmed. And not just on Earth, on every seeded world. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't alone in its struggle against Council control. There were potentially dozens of species in similar situations, most likely unaware of their true origins. Suddenly, the archive system flashed a warning. The holographic display flickered. We've been detected, Crix said urgently. The system is initiating security protocols. Vincent checked the security feeds. The diversion bought us some time, but security forces are redirecting toward our location. Tessa made a quick decision. Download what you can. We need proof to present to the full Council. Crix connected a small device to the workstation. I'm copying the critical files, but we need to access one more database before we leave. What database? Tessa asked as Vincent took up a defensive position near the entrance. The location of the precursor nexus, the central hub that connects all their technology. If we can activate it, the Council will lose its advantage over the seeded species. The download continued as the security alert intensified. Vincent's tactical display showed security forces converging on their position. 60 seconds before they breached the outer perimeter, he warned. Almost complete, Crix responded, fingers flying across the interface. The chamber suddenly sealed itself, crystalline barriers materializing across all exits. A new hologram appeared in the center of the room, the face of the Grand Arbiter. Admiral Blackwood, the crystalline being's voice resonated through the chamber. Did you truly believe you could infiltrate our most secure facility without detection? Tessa maintained her composure. We came seeking truth, Arbiter. The truth you've hidden from Earth and countless other worlds. Truth is dangerous, the Arbiter replied. Some species are not ready for it. That's not your decision to make, Tessa countered. Each species has the right to know its own history. The Arbiter's crystalline features shifted into what might have been amusement. Noble sentiments, but irrelevant. Your intrusion has provided exactly the justification the Council needed to implement containment protocol. Earth will be isolated, its development reversed, its memory of this encounter erased. Crix suddenly stepped forward. The download is complete, Admiral. Then, addressing the Arbiter. You've grown complacent, Arbiter. The Verati have been watching and waiting for millennia. The Arbiter's form flickered with what might have been surprise. The Verati were contained, eliminated. You believe so, Crix replied. Just as you believed your security systems impenetrable. You were wrong on both counts. Vincent's device suddenly displayed a new alert, but not from station security. Admiral, our probes throughout Council space have just received an activation signal. Tessa looked at Crix with new understanding. You hijacked our probe network. Temporarily, the small alien admitted. A precaution in case of discovery. The probes are now transmitting the truth about the seeded worlds to every communications network in Council space. The Arbiter's hologram showed genuine alarm now. This is an act of war against the Council. No, Tessa replied firmly. It's liberation. Every species has the right to know its origins and determine its... Earth strikes back out, the Galaxy Council is left speechless part. For the emergency vessel piloted by Crix approached the Council chamber's diplomatic docking port, its engines humming with an eerie silence that belied their power. Admiral Tessa Blackwood watched through the view screen as the massive chamber grew larger, its crystalline architecture catching the light of nearby stars. They've locked weapons on us, Vincent Kozlov reported from the tactical station. Multiple defense platforms activated. But they haven't fired, Tessa noted. They're confused, off balance, good. Crix's six-fingered hands danced across the alien controls with practiced precision. The information we released is causing widespread communication across Council space. Their command structure is experiencing disagreement. The ship's communication system suddenly activated. The stern face of Admiral Vox appeared, his scaled features tight with barely controlled rage. Human vessel, you will power down immediately and prepare to be boarded. This act of espionage against the Council will not stand. Before Tessa could respond, another communication channel opened. Delegate Zoran of the Illuvian Concord appeared, his translucent skin pulsing with rapid color changes. Admiral Blackwood, I urge you to dock at the auxiliary diplomatic port. A faction of the Council wishes to hear your evidence directly. A third channel activated. The Grand Arbiter, its crystalline form radiating cold authority. Ignore these unauthorized communications. Power down your vessel or be destroyed. Tessa exchanged glances with Vincent and Crix. It seems the Council isn't as unified as they'd have us believe. The truth about the seeded worlds is causing exactly the disruption we anticipated, Crix confirmed. Some species are demanding answers. Others are trying to suppress the information. Which port, Admiral? Vincent asked, hands hovering over the defense controls. Tessa considered her options. Admiral Vox represented the military hardliners who would never accept Earth as an equal. The Arbiter was committed to maintaining the old power structure at any cost. Zoran and the Illuvians, while not necessarily allies, at least seemed interested in the truth. Set course for the auxiliary diplomatic port, she ordered, but be ready for treachery. Crix adjusted their trajectory. The Illuvians have historically been moderates within the Council. If we're to find allies, it will be among their faction. As they approached the smaller, less imposing docking port on the lower section of the Council chamber, Vincent kept a close watch on the defensive systems. Multiple security vessels converging on our position, he warned. They'll reach us shortly after we dock. Then we'll need to be quick, Tessa replied. Our goal is to reach the Council floor and present our evidence before they can stop us. The ship settled into the docking clamps with a gentle shudder. The airlock cycled and a soft chime indicated successful pressurization. Downloading the archive data to portable devices, Vincent said, working quickly. Each of us will carry a complete copy. Redundancy, Tessa nodded approvingly. Good thinking. When the airlock doors slid open, they found Delegate Zoran waiting, accompanied by two other Council representatives. A massive being that seemed composed entirely of intertwined vines and flowers, and a diminutive creature with metallic skin and multiple sensory appendages. Admiral Blackwood, Zoran greeted her, colors shifting to formal blues and purples. These are Delegates Florak of the Photosynthetic Collective and Nemi of the Quantum Consciousness. We represent the Reform faction within the Council. Reform faction? Tessa asked, stepping cautiously onto the station with Vincent and Crix close behind. A minority voice, Florak rumbled, voice emerging from vibrating leaves. We have long questioned the Council's policy of technological suppression and species classification. The information you've released has caused considerable turmoil, Nemi added, its metallic skin rippling. Several member species are demanding emergency sessions to discuss the implications, which is precisely what the Arbiter and military faction are trying to prevent, Zoran explained. They've called for immediate containment measures against Earth and all seeded worlds mentioned in the archives. How many seeded worlds are there? Tessa asked as they hurried through a series of smaller corridors, clearly designed to avoid the main thoroughfares. 47 were originally established by the precursors, Nimi replied. 23 have achieved spacefaring capability. 8 have already been contacted and accepted into the Council, under false pretenses about their origins. Keeping these species separate and ignorant of their common heritage has been Council policy for millennia, Floric added, a policy some of us have increasingly questioned. They reached a security checkpoint where several guards of various species stood at attention. At a gesture from Zoran, they stepped aside. My authority still holds in this section, the Illuvian explained, but once we approach the Council chamber, we will face opposition. Vincent checked his tactical display. Security forces are spreading through the station. They're implementing a sector-by-sector search pattern. We need to reach the chamber before they lock it down completely, Crix urged. They passed through a series of increasingly ornate corridors, the architecture growing more elaborate as they approached the heart of the Council's power. Massive murals depicted the Council's history, though Tessa now recognized the carefully crafted propaganda in these images, showing the Council as benevolent guides rather than controlling manipulators. The chamber ahead has been in continuous session since your data release, Soren informed them. Various factions are arguing about how to respond. Perfect, Tessa replied. Division among them works to our advantage. They reached an antechamber with massive doors that soared 50 feet high, carved from some material that seemed to shift between solid matter and energy. The entrance to the Grand Chamber, Floric announced. Once inside, you will have the right to be heard under ancient council protocols, if you can reach the speaker's circle. And if we can't? Vincent asked. Then the military faction will likely have you detained and your evidence suppressed, Nimi replied matter-of-factly. Soren's colors darkened. We can escort you in, but we cannot protect you once inside. The chamber operates under special rules. Violence is forbidden, but so is interference with council security. Tessa nodded her understanding. We didn't come this far to turn back. Open the doors. The 3 delegates placed their hands on specific points of the massive doors, which began to shimmer and dissolve, revealing the vast council chamber beyond. Unlike their previous appearance, the chamber was now in complete disarray. Hundreds of delegates argued amongst themselves, some physically restrained by their colleagues. The Grand Arbiter stood at the central podium, attempting to restore order with limited success. The timing is fortuitous, Crix whispered. The chaos will cover our approach to the speaker's circle. Tessa surveyed the scene, quickly identifying the various factions by their grouping and behavior. The military faction, led by Admiral Vox, occupied the left section of the chamber. The moderate species were clustered in the center, while various independent delegations filled the right section. Stay close, she ordered. Head directly for the speaker's circle. Don't engage with anyone unless absolutely necessary. They entered the chamber initially unnoticed amid the chaos. Zoran and the other reform delegates moved ahead, creating a path through the crowd. They had traversed perhaps a third of the distance to the central floor when a shout went up. Humans! The humans are in the chamber. Admiral Vox's scaled face contorted with rage. Security! Detain the Earth delegation immediately. Council security forces began converging on their position. Soren and the reform delegates moved to intercept them, creating a temporary barrier. Keep moving, Crix urged. Once you reach the speaker's circle, they cannot remove you without violating the most sacred council protocols. Tessa and Vincent pushed forward as the chamber erupted into even greater chaos. Delegates of all descriptions were now fully aware of their presence, with reactions ranging from outrage to curiosity to apparent support. 20 meters to the speaker's circle, Vincent reported, checking the schematics Crix had provided. Suddenly, a security cordon formed ahead of them, a line of armored guards blocking their path. This is as far as you go, humans, their leader announced, a being with chitinous armor and multiple limbs wielding energy weapons. Tessa stepped forward confidently. By council law, any species facing judgment has the right to present evidence in their defense. We claim that right. You forfeited that right when you infiltrated restricted archives and disseminated classified information, the guard replied. Actually, came a new voice from behind the security line. They did not. The guards turned to find Delegate Luminax of the Aquarian Collective, the bioluminescent patterns across its body pulsing with authority. Council Statute 7329B, clearly states that evidence of council deception automatically grants the deceived party full speaking rights. Luminax continued. As chief archivist, I confirm that the information released by the humans is authentic council documentation. They have the right to be heard. The guards hesitated, looking to their superiors for guidance. In that moment of uncertainty, Luminax gestured and a section of the security line parted. Earth strikes back. The Galaxy Council is left. Speechless, Part 5. The council chamber trembled continuously now, the entire station resonating with energy pulses from the activated precursor nexus. The holographic image of the precursor Echo hovered above the speaker's circle, its luminous form casting everything in ethereal light. For 50 millennia, the truth has been hidden, the entity continued, its voice simultaneously in all minds present. The seeding was not mere colonization, but preservation, an effort to ensure our knowledge and values would survive our passing. Admiral Tessa Blackwood stood resolute beneath the projection, while around her the various council factions reacted with everything from reverence to terror. Vincent Kozlov remained at her side, while Crix had moved to interface with a console that had spontaneously emerged from the chamber floor. You speak as if your civilization is gone, Tessa addressed the precursor Echo. Yet these systems, this network, they're still operational after thousands of years. Our technology endures. Our civilization does not, the Echo replied. We faced a threat we could not overcome, a threat we named the Void. Rather than allow our knowledge to be lost, we created the seeding program. The Grand Arbiter stepped forward, its crystalline form refracting the precursor's light into countless rainbow patterns. The Council has protected the galaxy from the knowledge that destroyed the precursors. We have maintained peace for 50,000 years. You have maintained stagnation, the Echo corrected. You discovered our technology but not our purpose. You used our tools to control rather than elevate. Admiral Vox pushed his way to the front of the military faction. The precursor technological philosophy led to catastrophe. Unrestricted advancement without ethical constraints. A convenient narrative, Crix interjected, still working at the emergent console. But the historical archives tell a different story. The precursors didn't destroy themselves through technological hubris. They sacrificed themselves fighting the Void, and created the seeded species as their legacy. The chamber's main display changed, showing historical records far older than any the Council had previously revealed. They depicted a civilization of unimaginable advancement facing a cosmic threat, a spreading darkness that consumed entire star systems. The Void remains dormant, the precursor Echo explained. But it will return. This is why the seeding was necessary, to create civilizations that would evolve along different paths, developing unique approaches and technologies that might succeed where we failed. Tessa looked at the ancient recordings with growing understanding. The Council didn't just hide our origins. They prevented the very diversity of development that might have created solutions to this threat. Yes, the Echo confirmed. By enforcing technological conformity and suppressing innovation, they undermined the seeding's primary purpose. The delegates erupted in a cacophony of protests, accusations, and fearful exclamations. The Grand Arbiter struggled to maintain control. We had no choice, the Arbiter finally bellowed, its crystalline voice cutting through the chaos. The precursor records were incomplete. We found evidence of their destruction but not its cause. We assumed their own technology had destroyed them, and built your power on that assumption, Tessa noted coldly. Delegate Zoran moved to address the chamber, translucent skin pulsing with urgent patterns. If what the precursor Echo says is true, then Council policy has not protected the galaxy. It has left us vulnerable. Precisely, came the voice of Delegate Luminax, bioluminescent patterns flashing in agitation. By controlling technological development along approved paths, we've created a monoculture, exactly what the precursors sought to avoid. The station shuddered more violently. Alerts flashed across every display. Precursor installations are activating across all seeded worlds, reported a technician, voice tight with stress. Energy readings are impossible to quantify with our instruments. Vincent checked his tactical display. Our own people report multiple sites on Earth suddenly activating. Antarctica, the Mariana Trench, the Sahara Desert, and dozens more. The Awakening Protocol, the precursor Echo explained. Now that a critical mass of seeded species have discovered their heritage, the legacy technology is being restored to them. This is insanity. Admiral Vox roared. You would arm primitive species with technology they cannot possibly understand or control. Not primitive, corrected the Echo. Different. Evolved along unique paths with perspectives we could not predict. That was the purpose. Diversity of thought, approach, and capability. Crix completed his work at the console, which now projected its own holographic display, a network diagram showing connections between all seeded worlds. The Nexus network is fully operational, the small alien announced. Communications channels are open between all seeded species. They can now share knowledge directly, without council oversight. The implications struck the chamber like a physical blow. The Council's monopoly on interstellar communication and technology transfer, the foundation of their power, had been shattered in an instant. This ends now, Admiral Vox declared, signaling to his security forces. The station's defenses can still neutralize these activations. Target the primary Nexus node and fire all weapons. Wait, Tessa called out. You don't understand what you're doing. But the military faction was beyond reason. Orders were given, and throughout Council space, weapons platforms turned toward the newly activated precursor installations. The precursor echo seemed to dim momentarily. This response was anticipated. Defensive protocols are engaging. Across the galaxy, as Council weapons fired upon precursor installations, their energy beams simply disappeared. The attacks were absorbed without effect. The massive energy redirected into the Nexus network itself. Council weapons cannot harm precursor technology, Crix explained, reading data from the console. The precursors built their systems to endure stellar-scale events. Military intervention is futile. Admiral Vox's scaled face contorted with fury. Then we target the seeded worlds themselves. If we can't control the technology, we eliminate those who would use it. A horrified murmur swept the chamber. Even among the military faction, such a proposal was unthinkable. You would destroy dozens of inhabited worlds? Delegate Florak rumbled in outrage, plant-like appendages quivering. Trillions of lives? To preserve the Council's power? Delegate Nimi added, metallic skin flashing with indignation. This proves exactly what the humans have claimed, that the Council exists to control, not protect. The Grand Arbiter moved to intervene, but another station-wide tremor nearly knocked all present off their feet. The lights flickered, and when they stabilized, the chamber was different. Ancient symbols glowed along the walls and floor. Precursor script dormant for millennia but now awakened. This station, the Precursor Echo revealed, was not built by the Council. It was a precursor administrative center, repurposed after our passing. Its deepest systems are now reactivating. The floor of the chamber reconfigured itself, the speaker's circle expanding to encompass Tessa, Vincent, and Crix. The Arbiter's podium sank into the floor, while new platforms rose for the Reform faction delegates. What is happening? The Arbiter demanded, its crystalline form pulsing with alarm. The transfer of authority, the Echo replied simply, as programmed when the seeded species reached maturity. Tessa stepped forward, addressing the chamber directly. The precursors never intended the Council to rule permanently. They created it as a caretaker government until the seeded species could take their place. Absurd, Admiral Vox protested. The Council predates human civilization by tens of thousands of years. The Council as an institution, yes, Crix confirmed, reading from the newly accessible historical data. But its current form, the strict hierarchy, the technological suppression policies, those were implemented after the discovery of the first seeded worlds. The original Council was meant to guide and protect, not control. The Precursor Echo's form expanded, filling more of the chamber with its radiance. The time has come for the Galactic Covenant to replace the Galactic Council. A union of equals, not a hierarchy of control. And who would lead this covenant? The Arbiter asked, voice uncertain for perhaps the first time in its existence. No single species, the Echo replied. Governance would rotate among all members, with decisions requiring consensus rather than authority. The Reform faction delegates conferred quickly, then Zoran stepped forward. The Reform faction supports this transition. The Council system has grown corrupt and self-serving. A new approach is needed. Other delegates began voicing their positions, the chamber dividing not along traditional power lines, but between those who embraced change and those who feared it. To everyone's surprise, many of the oldest and most established council races sided with the reformers. The photosynthetic collective joins the reform faction, announced Delegate Florak. We have witnessed the council's decay for millennia. The quantum consciousness concurs, added Delegate Nimi. Stagnation threatens us all more than change. One by one, delegations declared their positions. Even some within the military faction broke ranks, recognizing the inevitable shift in power. Within an hour, a clear majority had formed in favor of the proposed covenant. Throughout,